order the December 11th, 2025 meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Seves,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Hartman,
Here.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Here.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Magana, Commissioner Mosby,
Present.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Patino,
Here.
Commissioner Stark,
Here.
Commissioner Lee Johnson.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lee and Commissioner Magana are absent.
Thank you. At this time, please stand and join the commission in the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is the approval of the minutes of the November 6th regular meeting.
I'll move them as presented. Commissioner Geyer.
Second, Kiriako.
Is that a motion and a second? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee Johnson,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Nelson, Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Abstain?
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now is the time for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Did we receive any requests to speak on items not on the agenda?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak under general public comment.
Okay. Do you also check with
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Santa Barbara?
We don't see anyone here who wants to speak.
No one there? Okay.
There is someone on Zoom, Julia, who would like to speak.
What was the last name on that? Oh, Barbosa, okay. Good afternoon.
I am speaking to, sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
I'm speaking today because I'm concerned that the Isla Vista Community Services District might be overstepping its LAFCO granted spheres of influence. Since 2021, the IVCSD has been hosting a so-called alternative to Deltopia in the downtown parks of Isla Vista. The expenditure hovers around $100,000 annually. My understanding is the CSD may acquire, construct, improve, maintain, and operate community facilities, including but not limited to community centers, libraries, theaters, museums, cultural facilities, and childcare facilities. Also, the services of the district shall not supplant the level of services provided by the County of Santa Barbara, the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District, UCSB, or any other service provider. It is my understanding that IVRPD is the local special district empowered to host entertainment festivals in Isla Vista, and it does so throughout the year, including on Halloween. Therefore, the CSD will be overstepping its boundaries when it hosts live music plus auxiliary food and beverage services on Deltopia. In response to the criticism from some community members regarding their decision to insist on hosting a Deltopia/Spring Festival, the CSD has claimed it is not entertainment, but rather a safety measure to counter the problems created by Deltopia, the unsanctioned event. That in itself is somewhat debatable, as their so-called festival does not pull away anyone from the streets of Del Playa, maybe a stopover on the way to and back. It could be said that the festival is adding to the mayhem. Now, at this juncture, I found that their stance is that it's most problematic because they're currently going against law enforcement recommendations. So they voted to reject our sheriff's office proposal to amend the noise ordinance on Deltopia, which would drastically reduce the public safety and health impacts. They did this while claiming that they couldn't support this proposal because they didn't know if they could get a special permit with the county to host a sanctioned Deltopia festival in time. Now, if they were questionably operating under public safety in years prior, they would now, in fact, if the ordinance passes and there's no Deltopia unsanctioned street parties to speak of, they would be in fact providing entertainment during Deltopia. They would be Deltopia. So it appears to me that they should not be allowed to do this considering the restrictions on their activated powers, and this community service district should not be absorbing the costs, not to mention the liability of hosting Deltopia. So I would like to ask the commissioners to address, if not now, at this meeting, at a later time, how LAFCO can oversee this possible abuse of powers and prevent it from happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that it, Madam Clerk? Any other public
I
comment?
wanted to speak. May I speak?
Yes. Could you please give your name?
Yes, my name is Peter Neuschel, spelled Neushul. I'm a property owner and taxpayer in Isla Vista. I'm calling about the Isla Vista Community Services District, and of course agree with what Julia Barbosa had to say. The Community Services District voted unanimously not to support an ordinance designed to take a serious step toward ending the dangerous and expensive, unsanctioned Deltopia party that rips through Isla Vista every spring. I'm sure you're familiar with this. At the moment, the board of the CSD has one elected member. They're all appointed. Carrie Topliff, Laura Capps' appointee, is supposed to represent the county's interests. She, along with the rest of the board, rejected the ordinance because it requires the CSD to get a permit to throw a party on Deltopia weekend. My question for LAFCO is, why is the CSD using a tax on our utilities to pay for a party? We already pay for the Isla Vista Recreation and Parks District. They are the party district. They are empowered to throw parties. Parties are nowhere to be found in the powers of the CSD. LAFCO never recommended another special district for Isla Vista, and you were absolutely right. Could you at least ensure that the CSD stop duplicating the powers of our park district and end their funding of Deltopia parties? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other requests to speak?
This is Commissioner Hartman. Would it be possible for our executive officer to just describe our legal authorities?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Hartman through the chair. This question was posed to our office earlier this week, and I did give a formal response to Ms. Barbosa that essentially outlined what LAFCO's authority is and what it is not. And the authority granted for LAFCO is as a boundary commission and formation commission to evaluate whether or not appropriate lines are drawn and to look at the powers, the authorities that are granted for the district itself. But the operations and decisions and the board makeup of the commission is outside of the authority of LAFCO in this commission. And with that'll probably be the extent of which I'll explain this item, because we are not noticed for discussion on this item. But to put it in a nutshell, we gave an explanation about what our authority is and what our authority is not. If the commission wishes to, at the appropriate time on our agenda, recommend a future agenda item for a matter to be taken up, then you can direct to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prater. Any other public comment?
Madam Chair, I have a question related to
Yes.
Mr. Prater's last comment. Is there any remedy that somebody from the public could have to address the question of whether the Community Services District is exceeding its powers? And if so, how would they take advantage of that? I suppose they could write the grand jury, but as far as some administrative action, is there anything that is available to people?
Yeah, Commissioner Stark, through the chair. In my response, it outlined a number of pathways forward for members of the public to seek remedies of various concerns that were raised. Among them, the civil grand jury can take up a matter and study whether or not they are exercising more authority or spending dollars that are inappropriate. The district attorney's office can get involved and investigate a matter as well. LAFCO does get involved to the extent that we do a service review, and through the service review can identify the authorities and powers that were granted to them and whether they're not exercising those properly or not. So we do have some limited role in that field. We are adopting a service review later today on this agenda. It has identified the authorities and powers. And so if these individuals would like to seek further remedy, they have additional opportunities for them to engage and try to resolve their concerns.
Thank you.
I have a question from
Any
Senate.
further public comment?
Not public, but I have a commission question.
Oh, okay. Who? Identify yourself.
Roger Sebas. This item is business item 1, am I correct?
No, this is only public
No,
comment.
I understand, but the comments that are being made would reference the discussion on business item number 1, where the community service district is listed.
Commissioner
Or
Seves.
adoption, I guess.
Yeah, Commissioner Seves through the chair. There could be an opportunity to further this discussion under business item 1. My understanding is that it really relates to an action or inaction that the district took at a recent meeting, which is not identified on our agenda. The authority and the power component of their public comment could be part of business item 1.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, that we have further discussion at that point, because I do have questions based on the comments made by the public members.
What was that?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, I recommend holding off on any further questions until business item number 1.
Thank you very much, Council. Okay, any further public comment?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, there are no more public comments. on
Thank
this
you.
item.
The next item is the approval of the consent calendar. Does any commissioner wish to pull any of these items? How about Santa Barbara?
No?
Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll move it.
To approve. Commissioner Guyer?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please take a roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is a business item. The next item is business item number 1. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to consider the adoption of a service and sphere of influence review for the 19 agencies that provide healthcare, vector control, municipal improvement, harbor, cemetery, and other service agencies in Santa Barbara County.
And Mr. Prater, our executive officer, will be doing the presentation.
All right, thank you. Great. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation to present. So this is our fifth and sort of final cycle of service reviews that will wrap up our review and discussion of all of our special districts and our city. We started let me move. All right. Pardon me as I adjust my seat. I guess our remote clicker isn't working, so I'll have to sit over here at the desk and operate by keyboard here. So we embarked on this process back in February of 25 of this year. We've outreached to all of the agencies. We prepared a service review. We created an administrative draft, had all of the agency staff members be able to evaluate that and coordinate corrections and comments through the document throughout the process. And then ultimately released this for a public review period of 30 days. Back in October, we have received some comments since that as a public comment. That's been included in attachment D is our comments and changes. And we'll go over those comments in a little bit more detail. And then now we are here today to hold a hearing to consider this adoption of the service review and then to look at the spheres of influences for the 11 special districts and adopt appropriate boundaries for them. Two of the main components that I like to share with this is a map. You can tell a lot in a map. And these two maps that I'm showing, these are identifying the agencies that were involved in this report. The report covers the entirety of the county. It's a countywide report that look at these services. And in this slide, we're showing these 13 agencies, 8 of them being cities, and a handful of special districts that were included as part of this review process. The second map is those 7 cemetery districts that overlie all of these districts. So we parceled these out because those boundaries are quite large and overlap all of those special districts in the 8 cities, and it's easier to read the map when you have them separate. But as you can see, the county in its entirety, there are white portions within the county that are not covered by a public cemetery district. And there are overlapping cemetery districts that cover the same territory. And all of that analysis has been previously discussed and documented in this service review. But oftentimes it's much easier to glean that information when you're just simply looking at a map of where those overlie one another or where there's white spaces. So with that, the key determinations that were made ultimately with this service review is that of all of the 11 independent special districts that we evaluated, they're listed here from all of the cemetery districts to municipal improvement districts to the Lompoc Healthcare District, the Mosquito Vector Control District, and Isla Vista CSD. They all share a thing in common, which is their spheres are coterminous with their district boundary. So where they provide service is also where their sphere boundary exists. That is not the case for 5 of the cities that are evaluated. 5 of those cities have sphere boundaries that extend beyond their current city limit lines. A few of those boundaries in some of those cities are coterminous that are identified here. Buellton, Goleta, and Guadalupe, they have coterminous boundaries. So that's the starting point of all of these evaluations of all of these reports. As we go through this process, we're trying to determine and provide information to the best of our ability of where boundaries might adjust, either shrink or grow, so that the commission can make appropriate decisions. Again, we've had regularly agendized commission updates through status reports. We looked at the different study areas that were involved. We talked about the communications we've had with the different agencies. And ultimately, we have to notice whenever we change a sphere boundary, a notice in the paper. That has been done. We provided the proper notice for that. And we've made all of this information available on our website. So anybody from the public can download the document, read the document, and suggest any edits that they see are appropriate. And we have done some of that. And largely, we like to thank many of the participants that help us along the way. It took us a year to get through this report on the services that we're talking about. Generally, any service review from most LAFCOs take a year and a half to 2+ years, and they often hire consultants to do that work. Your staff does all of this work in-house, and we've committed to writing these in a year's time frame so that we can get to start to finish and we can move forward and start looking at other services. And as a result of that, things can be still relatively fresh and germane as far as what's in the report itself. Although every day is a new day and you're always finding out new things of what agencies are trying to explore and accomplish. And we try to pick those up as we move into the next series of service reviews. But with that, Attachment D includes ultimately 26 comments in Attachment D. We've had since then 2 additional commenters provide public comment that we've forwarded onto the commission as a late submittal post staff report and staff analysis. Those 2 additional comments were from the Vector Control District and from Isla Vista CSD staff members. We've looked at those changes. We're okay with those changes. The changes they suggested just enhance the accuracy of the information and doesn't change any real policy direction that you'd want to consider. However, of the 26 that are listed in your packet, there are 5 that are not recommended to be changed by your staff. And we'll go over those 5 and our rationales why we didn't recommend accepting those changes. Lastly, again, we'd like to thank everybody that is involved in this. We certainly could not write an entire service review of 500 pages in a year's time frame without the exhaustive help of all of the 19 agencies that we were partnered with, the county departments that help provide the back-end information and data, and some of the outside agencies that produce information, and then ultimately the public and their feedback through this process. So the recommendation is then to take public comment, answer any commissioner questions, ultimately approve the CEQA document, and then approve the sphere and the service review. With that, I wanted to go into detail of the 5 changes that were not recommended. So these 5 changes all came from comments by the city of Lompoc and their staff. You'll see their comment number. They've coordinated a nice, nifty change table. So we've added on the left-hand column what number that relates to. Number 5 relates to adding the bullet of graffiti to a list of things that this agency does. It's not recommended because graffiti abatement's already listed. So it's a duplication of effort. We didn't need to list it twice. Comment number 13 adds that the city of Lompoc has various agreements for services and include a laundry list of those with the Vandenberg Space Force, Space Base, Vandenberg Village CSD, and so on and so forth. Because staff has not had ample time to be able to look at all of those service agreements and the contents within those agreements, we are recommending that they not be included as official service agreements recognized by LAFCO at this time. We encourage the city and its staff to submit those agreements, have LAFCO make an evaluation and determination. Some of those agreements may be acknowledged. Some of those agreements may need further out-of-agency service agreement approval by your commission. And some may be exempt altogether and follow the exemption clause. We just need to be able to do a thorough evaluation. And we can do that thorough evaluation as we proceed into the next service review, include those agreements and do an evaluation. And in that service review, we can pick up any agreements that are recognized by LAFCO and the commission. So we're recommending that we don't take them on face value and allow your staff to do an evaluation before we accept those types of agreements. The last three have to deal with modifying the description of the territory in which the city of Lompoc operates, which is kind of their city boundary, and including territories and areas such as the federal prison, Allen Hancock College, and the county and other areas. So our recommendation is that again, is redundant. They asked for that same kind of language in a prior paragraph. We accepted that language for a prior paragraph, and we didn't feel it necessary to repeat it simply a couple paragraphs lower than that. For number 16, again, it was noted that the northern portion of the city, again, was owned by these agencies, Hancock College and the penitentiary. Again, noted previously, we didn't think you needed to repeat it again and again throughout the service review. Number 17 deals with the population and why we used the population and the sources that we used. The city staff felt that we should have used the Department of Finance as the baseline data, a point of reference, and that we should have used that consistently throughout, looking back at trend lines from 2020 or from 2000, 2010, and 2020. And again, that's not consistent with the way we have been preparing these service reviews. All 5 of the service reviews that we've looked at, we've been consistent in our measurement using the U.S. Census data as the baseline data, using SB CAG's population and projection trends report that they put together as a local resource. But we also did acknowledge every year Department of Finance numbers as they make an estimate. That estimate is often derived for other purposes and not for the purposes that we're trying to discern in our evaluation of these service reviews. And we also wanted to use consistency of the source so that as we get into our next round of evaluations, we'll be able to go back to that same source and see a trend of what's happening by using the same source data. And so again, we're not recommending that we change the source data solely for the city of Lompoc or all of the agencies that we're evaluating, the 19 agencies that we're evaluating in this service review, because it doesn't match and mirror the effort that we did in the 4 previous service reviews. So those covers are 5 areas that we made recommendations not to do. Otherwise, we've accepted the bulk of what the city had requested. We felt they were better information, more accurate information, and we appreciated their detailed review and oversight on that and making sure that the document reads as accurate as it can be. So with that, that concludes our general presentation. We'll get into public comment, obviously, and I'll be able to answer further comments as we get into that.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion from the commission?
On this?
Yes.
No.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patino. I just want to make sure that I understand the scope of this item. So we're just confirming the sphere of influences for these districts in question, but doing a municipal service review for these services in those cities and the other. Like, I'm just trying to make sure I have it all straight in my head.
Commissioner Nelson, through the chair, that is correct. So we're only looking at the spheres of the 11 independent special districts and adopting those spheres. But we are looking at all 19 agencies, including the 8 cities, about these services
About these
that are
services,
identified.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a little wonky here, so it's good to get clarification for myself to make sure I know what I'm voting on. You know, we've talked about in the past that some of these cemetery districts have some challenges. And, you know, at some point in the future, probably needs to be a conversation had by some entity. I don't know if that's the county, is that LAFCO, about potential consolidation or, you know, because again, some of these are nearly insolvent, and you know, these are important resources in our communities. And I'm just, you know, this isn't the top of the list for me, although these are pretty important assets in our community. I actually, you know, cut my teeth in government on serving on the Santa Maria Cemetery Board. So, you know, it's really, that one's near and dear to my heart. Just trying to figure out how that all factors together, and how do we start to either, you know, here at LAFCO, or do I need to do something as a county supervisor, my other hat, to start to have some of those conversations, because it's not just, you know, Santa Maria Cemetery. You know, we've got issues all throughout the county that probably need to be addressed, and we probably shouldn't wait till there's some kind of calamity. So help me.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, through the chair. Yeah, so as we've evaluated, we identified some of the challenges that some of these cemeteries have, often related to the amount of revenue they receive and the ability to, you know, retain staff and be able to perform those functions and duties and interments, and also the overlap that goes on, and why are those overlapped, and how can we sort of untangle some of that. So our service review is solely here to sort of identify that, right? And so that's what we did. To be able to resolve those down the road, that's where it takes the effort largely probably of the district supervisor getting in contact with the cemetery districts and their boards and having those conversations. Ultimately, any boundary changes that come forward has to come forward from either the district itself or an affected agency. An affected agency could be the county. So on behalf of them, you could suggest changes that go on. LAFCO plays a role if you wanted to reorganize those and consolidate cemetery districts on what that process looks like and what is the information needed for this commission to evaluate those. So we'll play a role, and we'll sit as a partner alongside county representatives and or cemetery representatives to help facilitate what those discussions might look like. But ultimately, either of those two entities have to sort of be the proponent and applicant for any real change.
We've got some coterminous. We do have coterminous with cities, though, too, right? So do they have a role in that, in those conversations?
The cities do not have a role in that. They have no obligation to provide any of those services. If a city wanted to take on that authority and service, then that is something a city could do. So but it could only do it for its city limit boundaries. So it inherently has some limitations for cities to take on that type of service.
Versus the county.
Versus the county, who's all-encompassing,
Yeah.
unincorporated.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
And often the locale of the actual cemetery districts are in unincorporated territory.
I think,
Often, not always.
yeah, about half and half. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Stark, did you have anything you wish to say?
Not as to the cemeteries, no.
Okay. Commissioner Mosby?
Just in referencing items 13 that you had identified in your papers, is there a way to identify those items in the request, but identify them as you stated that these are happening, but are alleged happening, but they're not approved by LAFCO?
Commissioner Mosby, through the chair, conceivably, we could add those in and put them in a to-be-determined state, if you would. My recommendation is that we not do that, just because how far along and at this point that we are at trying to adopt this document today, that we essentially pick up that baton in the next 2 months when we start the police, fire, EMS service review. So there won't be a large lag of time. When we start that, likely in February, I think that's where it would be appropriate to then include this, and that'll give us enough ample time to sort of research that question. And in that service review, we can add what we think is a qualifying out-of-agency service, or make a recommendation that an out-of-agency service agreement be sought or an exemption be qualified, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it gets you much to include it in this service review when we're going to pick this sort of topic up, the opportunity to talk about it again in 2 months in February. I think that's a better place to put it. I feel more comfortable from your staff standpoint because I really haven't delved into it long enough. I haven't seen any of those agreements firsthand. And to just simply say, well, they're under review, may give a sense that the readers from the public might not understand that we haven't made a determination yet.
So again, the curiosity is because the services are being provided, like to the Space Force Base and to the village. Mainly that's just wastewater as one issue. So does that put them in limbo themselves with agreements that have been ratified through LAFCO?
No, I think the city is still fair to continue to provide that service in the interim phase, regardless.
Just curious as how this could happen without ratification through LAFCO.
Yeah, ultimately, if it's determined that the city and the entity that is in question that you're providing that service to is required to come before the commission, then the reality is many of agencies are unaware of that process, and they often strike agreements between agencies or between entities, and thinking that that's adequate. And is often found out kind of hindsight that, it actually required an approval from LAFCO. And ultimately what we do with those scenarios is we allow that service to continue in the interim until LAFCO has a chance to take it up on a formal decision. And at the end of that decision, if the commission decides that they did not want to issue that, then they'd have to stop that service after that point. But at least in the interim, because you're already providing that service, we're not in a position to make anybody fall short of a needed service. The last thing we want to do is make sure, we don't want anybody to lose their sewer or their water capability because LAFCO hasn't made a decision yet. So we'll let you continue to make that service obligation until we've made a decision.
So if the city of Lompoc were to make the request to make a decision and the LAFCO board votes no, would they have to then at that time discontinue the service?
They would.
So then it's probably better not to ask for the application to come in front of the LAFCO board then. That way you don't put the Space Force Base or the village in jeopardy.
And that's often what these service reviews are intended to do, is to disclose ultimately what are you doing. And we're happy that you acknowledge that you're providing these services. Unfortunately, you've now been swept up into an obligation to come forward potentially for an approval by the commission. The alternative to that is you sort of do it anyways and you never come forward, and then LAFCO eventually finds out and then request that you come forward And then if you don't come forward, then we are put in a position to have to make a different decision. So we appreciate it when it was not acknowledged that it was needed, but you're doing it and you wanted to now go through the proper process. And so that is favorable. And oftentimes it's found as a needed service. And so the commission often has been pretty lenient in granting that authority. This is similar to the city's request when you entered into the dispatch, a cooperative dispatch agreement. Before you entered into that agreement, your legal counsel sent a request into my office to ask, does this trigger the need for an out-of-agency service agreement? And our conclusion was it did not. It was exempt. So you didn't have to go through the process, but we much preferred you asking before you entered into the agreement in the first place.
I agree. That was me making the request, and it was me making most of these suggestions here as well as wondering what's going on, and which answers a lot of questions when the city has looked to move their SOIs in understanding services already providing that probably they didn't do it in the first place that they should have done. So the logic that we're looking at is stepping and moving forward. The fact that you're providing a couple of these things were actually left off. We actually provide electric in some of these areas as well. That somebody got the cart before the horse. So I'm trying to make sure that we legitimize what we need to. That's why I reference these as we're moving forward. But I can see why maybe somebody left it off, because it potentially puts Vandenberg Village and the Space Force base in jeopardy. And maybe they won't be able to flush their toilets. That would be very concerning. Thank you.
Any comments, questions, discussion from Santa Barbara?
This is Commissioner Savas. Maybe now we should have that discussion on Isla Vista. We took the public comment, and I know our responsibility is to assess their responsibilities and what they agreed to do when they became a service district. Is this now not the opportunity to talk about that, or should we bring that back for another day? But I think the public comment is very telling in that you may have a district that is exceeding its original purposes and spending the taxpayer dollars where it wasn't originally intended.
Commissioner Seves, through the chair, I think that topic would be a good future agenda topic specifically on that issue, so that it would give your staff time to evaluate that, fully notify the Isla Vista CSD staff personnel so that they can be here to comment or defend their position as well.
I'd be
Mr.
okay.
Prater, is this, excuse me.
No,
Mr. Seves?
Yeah, just to finish, I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Obviously, be a notice meeting where the public would be able to come in and offer their concerns to have a real discussion. Thank you.
I had a comment as well.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Prater, is this a good time then to ask you for that future agenda item then, right now?
We can do that.
Okay.
There can be, sounds like there is a request for that and concurrence by at least 4 of the commissioners, so.
Okay. Okay, who was the next down there?
James Carioca.
Okay, Mr. Carioca?
Yeah, so just, I guess just to kind of provide additional direction, when this gets brought back, I guess for me, I would be as much, if not more, interested in having it as more of a general item rather than necessarily being specifically singling out one jurisdiction. I'm aware of the public comment, and I'm aware of the justification behind it, but I guess I'm a lot more interested in having a broader discussion on what is LAFCO's role and what are the proper vehicles for different types of jurisdictions that LAFCO looks at and is related to. If there's a special district, what would be the avenue? If you feel a city is exceeding its powers, what would be the vehicle to go to? If there was a belief that the county was, going beyond its powers. So I think I'd be interested in a bigger discussion of what LAFCO's role is, and to what extent do we call balls and strikes, and to what extent is it really not our game at all to play?
Thank you. Anyone else in Santa Barbara?
Chair Patino, if I may ask.
Yes, Mr. Prater.
It appears we
there
may have a
seem to
public
be-
comment in Santa Barbara at some point when we can get to it.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to conclude, it appears that we had consensus on bringing back an isolated review of Isla Vista and the powers that it's exercising, and whether or not that exceeds their granted authority by the commission. There's been it was suggested maybe a friendly amendment to include LAFCO's role and other opportunities or engagement by other entities to determine whether or not what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So that if there's concurrence with that, I'm okay with it being concurrence with that. That just means it's a bit bigger of an item, and will take your staff more time, and so it would not likely be back on the future agenda list for January or February. This will likely get moved more into March or April timeframe. So as long as you're acknowledge that you're okay with that, I'm happy to expand the agenda title to include a broader perspective.
Okay, Commissioner Stark?
Yeah, I don't think that's a great idea, the mushing a broader discussion with what I think is a specific comment about what I believe to be a unique special district. And an Isla Vista Community Service District isn't like any other service district. It's got its own section in the community district law, and it's got a bump up against the Rec and Parks District, which I think makes this situation factually separate enough that and timely, I think, that we'd want to do that first before a more generalized discussion, which could go in a number of different directions. I'd prefer to keep it narrow.
Okay. So let's go through any discussions, questions, and then I'll come back and get a consensus and see if we have at least 4 people who are want to go in either a general direction or a more specific direction. So any more comments, questions, discussions from Santa Barbara?
Yeah, Commissioner Guyer, I agree with Commissioner Stark because in the formation of the Isla Vista Community Service District, it was very explicit as to what the powers they were enabled with, and it was also pretty explicit that they were not to encroach on the powers of the Isla Vista Park District. So if you want to have the discussion, I think it would be later, but I don't feel like we should hold up the municipal service reviews.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussions from Santa Barbara on this business item? Okay, then let me bring it back for any kind of a consensus. And Commissioner Stark and Commissioner Dyer wanted something more specific to Isla Vista because it's special in itself. How many of you would be in favor of that?
We're going for hands.
Yeah, hands will be fine. You've got 2 up here. How many do you have down there?
Could you be so kind to repeat that, please?
What'd she say?
She wants you to repeat that.
Oh, how many are interested in having it more specific to Isla Vista? And we've got 2 hands up here, and how many do I have down there? And then I'll ask how many of you want more of a general type of item brought to the agenda? You've got 2 down there, that's 4.
For specific, you raise your hand.
It's 3.
Are we asking for specificity?
Yeah, for specificity for Isla Vista. Okay, we've
about
got
that.
3 hands up here. We've got 3 down there.
That was what I counted.
Okay, thank you. That gives you 6 of us. Okay, so Mr. Prater, we want something more than specific for Isla Vista.
Madam
And maybe
Chair?
out of that, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know that there's one public speaker on this item, not the
Yeah.
Isla Vista, but the MSR.
Yes, I knew that. Sorry. Okay. We'll go to public comment. And anyone public comment here in Santa Maria, Madam Clerk?
Chair Patino, members of the commission, here in Santa Maria, there are no public comments
Okay.
on this item.
Then we will go to Santa Barbara for public comment on this item.
Hi, I just had a quick question. I know you mentioned that this was the 5th and final cycle of the service reviews.
Would you state your name just
Oh,
for the
sorry,
record?
I'm Molly Cunningham. Yeah, my name is Molly. But then you also said there's going to be a fire and EMS review. Are there more topics coming each year, or what's the process, I guess, am I wondering? How many, I know it's per chapter, per service review, or do you know how many more chapters there will be? Just out of curiosity, because I didn't know if this was the last one or if there would be more. I'm just curious.
Mr. Prater?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. So the commission embarked on a service review 5-year cycle that considered primarily 5 general combining topics. So there's 5 essential volumes to a service review that looks at very topical situations throughout the county as a countywide document. And so this is the 5th of that, which happens to be kind of a miscellaneous catch-all that picked up cemeteries, healthcare, vector control, housing mediation. We have broadband, solid waste service, and we are looking at schools, although LAFCO doesn't have a jurisdiction over schools, but oftentimes members of the public find it beneficial to understand school enrollment, school locations, and so we felt it beneficial to include it in this service review. The other 4, which every year we'll write a service review, and we're starting the cycle again, and the other 4, the first one deals with police, fire, EMS services. The next one deals with water, wastewater. Then we tackle transportation-related services, including street lighting, street sweeping, street beautification, and then we do recreation and parks and open space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in Santa Barbara? No, okay. Okay, any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Can I please get a motion?
Excuse me,
And a second?
do we have anybody online that wants to speak that spoke earlier?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. There is no one online wishing to speak. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the service review as recommended by the staff with the appropriate additions and amendments the staff has identified.
Do I have a second?
Now, this
Nelson
Commissioner
seconds.
Guyer,
I have a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, and just for clarification, I believe that also includes the CEQA finding in that motion. Is that correct, Commissioner Stark?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Did you get the second on that, Madam Clerk? Okay. So, Madam Clerk, will you please call for the vote?
Commissioner Guyer,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the motion includes recommendations A, B, C, and D.
That's what staff recommended. and
Yes.
That's what my motion includes.
Yes, it does.
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 2. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 2 is to consider authorizing and granting authority to the executive officer to enter into a grant agreement and sub-agreements to implement the work plan and budget with California Department of Conservation regarding sustainable agricultural lands conservation planning grant for the Santa Barbara County Agriculture and Natural Resource Initiative.
The presentation will be made by our Executive Director, Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the commission requested final agreement be presented before we actually executed that agreement. In October meeting this year, we gave an informational item to the commission. It was presented that essentially outlined what the grant agreement terms and conditions were when we agreed to enter into this agreement. There was question about what those look like. The commission wanted clarification beforehand. We did that at our October meeting. And then subsequent to that, on October 8th, the Department of Conservation awarded our application with this grant. And so now what's before you is the final agreement being presented for the commission's discussion and action, and essentially to authorize your executive officer to enter into this grant agreement. And it also identifies both Natasha and Amber of our staff as delegates. So in the event that I'm absent or not able to execute either invoicing or report back out to Department of Conservation, that both of these two members would be able to do that on our behalf. It also allows your executive officer to enter into sub-agreements with consultants so that they can perform the work necessary within the work plan that's consistent with the budget plan that's identified. And finally, the final work plan and budget, they have been slightly revised since you first saw those at the pre-proposal stage when we were going through this exercise. Essentially, it allows for more time and funding to complete task 1, which is dealing with the planning and policy components and the process for that, so that we get a thorough baseline of information and understanding of what policies are applicable here, and be able to use that to embark on our mapping and analysis, and then ultimately our outreach, and then final construction of the framework. And so the team, the grant team, felt like at the end of the day, more time, more money was needed for that task. So as a result, we've adjusted the dollars that came out of the mapping component and moved it into task 1. We still think we can solidly complete all of the mapping portions and cover all of that. And this would allow that increase time and effort to complete task 1 in a timely fashion. Ultimately, the goal is to have the grant agreement go into effect sometime in January of '26, with periodic status updates to be presented as the work progresses through the process. The grant agreement and any subsequent work associated with that and invoicing associated with that cannot start effectively until after the Department of Conservation's director signs the agreement after that portion. And so the motion is requesting a motion and a second to request basically what staff is recommending, that you allow us to exercise this agreement and your executive officer to enter into subsequent contracts to be able to perform the work. So that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Prater. Any discussion, questions from the commissioners?
I have a very simple
Commissioner
question.
Stark?
Yeah. If Mr. Prater could identify who our core partners are, I believe in your staff report you referred to our core partners. Could you identify them, please?
Yeah, so amongst the core team are various city members, county staff members. We have nonprofit organizations that are all part of the team. And specifically, those include the City of Lompoc, the City of Santa Maria, the City of Goleta, and the City of Buellton staff members, and county representatives from the planning staff. From the nonprofits, it's the Land Trust, it's CEC, it's Community Gardens group, and one more. I know there's one more in there that's also working with that, working with the Legacy Group that's helping with that, and our local RCD as part of the team. So it's a broad brush of folks that are working on this effort.
Thank you.
Yeah. Could I ask one follow-up question? Are there any what would be referred to as agricultural agencies that are part of the partner teams?
Yeah, many of the nonprofits are also very, very well engaged in all of the agriculture and natural open space components. And the ultimate goal here is to utilize this team and bring in additional stakeholders and the public and be able to sit down and do workshopping so we can get a full breadth of information from a lot of different, beyond the core team group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Santa Barbara?
I do have a question, Commissioner Sebas. Will there be future, after January, will there be future updates to this commission as to how we're going on the project? And are there going to be any future decisions that this commission is going to have to be made on the project?
Commissioner Steves, through the chair, as I indicated, we will be bringing back periodic status updates as we go through the process. So we'll keep this commission informed of where we're at, how we're doing, what we're learning. And then ultimately, at the end of this process, there potentially could be some decision-making, not only by the commission, but it may require our local agencies to also consider either the recommended policies or MOA framework or any of the components that we're trying to achieve throughout this grant work, for those agencies to actually take some sort of actual action as well. So it's not goes beyond just this commission.
Okay, I understand that, and you did say periodic, but the grant itself has specific target dates on projects to be completed. And I think if we're the lead agency, we should have some updates, regular updates as where we are and if we're keeping with the grant requirements so that we don't lose sight of the timeline.
Any other comments from Santa Barbara?
This is Commissioner Hartman. Is there any role for board members other than receiving the periodic updates to play in the process, or any way we can assist?
Commissioner Hartman, through the chair, elected members can participate primarily through our engagement activity. So when we hold various outreach opportunities, there'll be opportunities for those members to participate in those conversations. But the analysis and the decisions and the interpretations that go into that analysis will largely be the core team that's making those decisions.
Well, I just wanted to say once again, congratulations. It's a major grant, and it's a huge undertaking, and I've heard nothing but good things from the core team members I've spoken with.
Thank you. Anyone else from Santa Barbara?
I'll just echo Commissioner Hartman's comments and thank the staff for getting us to this point. This is a really big deal for a number of our communities here in Santa Barbara County. I would say especially in the Glida area, the Eastern Glida Valley area, the ag-urban interface and issues of housing and how do we simultaneously balance housing and ag has been a flashpoint in our community for decades, and it's nice to see that LAFCO is taking a major step forward and trying to balance these issues and find solutions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment in Santa Barbara?
We no longer have public in Santa Barbara.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. Any further comments? Can I get a motion in a second?
I'll make it. Commissioner Hartman, I move that we authorize our executive officer to enter into a grant agreement and sub-agreements to implement the work plan and budget with the California Department of Conservation regarding Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Planning Grant for the Santa Barbara County LAFCO.
And I'll second that. Kariako.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kariako,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is business item number 3. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to consider the adoption of a resolution initiating the dissolution of County Service Area Number 32 and direct staff to process the proceeding.
And our executive officer, Mr. Prater, will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff is now returning with the initiation of the dissolution of County Service Area Number 32 by resolution. If you'll recall, back in June, staff was directed, given direction to seek County CAO's office weigh in and input before we started these proceedings. So we did table that item. We have been in contact with them. They have now submitted a letter that's included in your attachment stating that they've concurred with initiating this action. It's attachment C. So for all the reasons that we have stated, County Service Area 32 is an inactive district. It has been since 2011. It is listed on the State Controller's Office list of qualifying districts for dissolutions through the special process. With the Commission's concurrence and adoption of the resolution, we'll initiate this proceeding. So we're happy to answer any questions if you had any.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patino. I just wanted to thank staff for doing a little bit more digging on it. I think it caught Commissioner Hartman and I's ear when we saw it come across and thought there might be an opportunity there that we could maybe repurpose it for some other uses. It doesn't seem like it's the right tool for what we need in moving on in the future. So appreciate you guys just taking the extra 6 months to ask some questions for us. So I'm definitely supportive of moving forward as our county CEO recommended.
Any other? Did you have a question, Commissioner?
I just want to verify what's before us. What's before us is to proceed with the matter and docket this for formal dissolution at our January meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we are becoming the applicant to initiate this process.
And did I read the staff report correctly? The county is fully in support of this?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments, discussions from Santa Barbara? Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
Chair Patino and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Any public comment in Santa Barbara?
Seeing none.
Okay. Okay. Can I get a motion and a second?
Yes, Chair Patino, I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation, including the CEQA finding. Is there a CEQA finding here? I want to make sure I have that for Mr. Geyer.
Yes.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Geyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stark,
Aye.
Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item is a closed session item for today. And Madam Clerk, can you read the closed session item?
The next item, closed session today for a public employee performance review, Government Code Section 54957B1 for LAFCO Executive Officer Mike Prater.
Okay, we will adjourn into closed session. Thank you.
Chair Stark, I have a question. As Commissioner Geyer, is alternate Magana available? I have to leave in about 5 minutes, and I think we'll lose a quorum if I leave.
Alternate Mosby is here. It doesn't go, okay. Okay.
We're going to need Mosby for me because I also have to leave, and I think he would be the alternate for city, or the, yeah, he'd be the city alternate.
Dressed and ready. What if I had to leave?
Commissioner Geyer, through the chair, my understanding is Commissioner Magana is not here, but if you have to leave, the commission will still have a quorum and be able to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Counsel for the commission will report out on closed session.
Okay, counsel for the commission will report out on the closed session now.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, in closed session, the commission considered one item, and that is Public Employee Performance Review for LAFCO Executive Officer Mike Prater. The commission took no reportable action.
Thank you. So we'll move on to commissioner and staff announcements. Are there any commissioner announcements or requests for future agenda items? I think we already gave you the future agenda items, Mr. Prater. Are there any other future agenda items from commissioners?
Yes.
Santa Barbara?
Yes, Santa Barbara, Doreen Lee Johnson. I just would like to know if there's a new, I believe, fairly new code, or the bill, SB 499, and I know that we will be talking about future projects regarding, related to the housing that is going to be, I believe, in February, your projects. Is there anything that we need to know about that? Legal counsel or our executive officer, Mike Prater, please.
Commissioner Lee Johnson, through the chair, I'm not familiar with SB 499, so I'll have to look into that. But if the commission, we have at least three here in Santa Maria and yourself, if you all concur that you want that as a future agenda item, I'll place that on the list.
I have no idea what 499 is.
Just nod your head, yes.
Okay. There you go.
Residential projects and fees.
Any other announcements from Santa Barbara? Any announcements here, commissioners? Okay. Are there any executive officer comments?
Yeah, so my comments to wrap this up is to announce that the prior 4 future agenda items that the commission has requested, all 4 of those are being worked on, and we anticipate bringing those back for your agenda topics at your January 8th meeting. Other than that, happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. So the Santa Barbara County Local Formation Commission is adjourned to 1 o'clock on 1 p.m. on January 8th, 2026 in Santa Barbara. Have a very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas. Happy holidays.